Picture this. You're sitting across from a bank staff member, going through your home deposit savings account, and she mentions the government will add over $7,600 to it, completely risk-free, if this money had gone through your super instead of sitting here. Quick reminder before we go further. This is general education, not personal financial advice, and every number in this video is illustrative. Always run your own numbers through the ATO or MoneySmart's FHSS calculator before you act. Once you understand how this actually works, though, it stops looking scary and starts looking like the easiest $7,000 you'll ever make. That's not a sales pitch. That's the First Home Super Saver scheme, a real, legal, government-run program. And most people in their 20s and 30s have never touched it because the paperwork looks like it was written to make you give up. And to be clear, this isn't some obscure loophole or a scheme a finance influencer dug up. It's a program the government actively built and actively wants you to use. It's just never explained anywhere near a bank because a bank makes nothing off you using it. Here's the problem. Nobody explains when you open a savings account. If you're saving for a house deposit the normal way, money sitting in a high-interest savings account, that money got taxed once already when you earned it at your full marginal rate. Could be 30, 32, even 37%. Then every dollar of interest that account earns gets taxed again every single year at that same marginal rate. You're taxed going in and taxed on everything it grows. The First Home Super Saver scheme exists because the government would rather you parked that same money inside superannuation, where contributions are taxed at a flat 15% instead of your marginal rate. That gap, your marginal rate versus 15%, is the entire scheme in one sentence. Everything else is just the paperwork to get it in and back out again. Let's make this concrete. Meet Jess and Dave, same two people from our super video, both 30, both saving for their first home. They each commit to putting away $15,000 a year for 3 years, which is $45,000 each toward their deposit. Dave does it the way most people do. He gets paid, tax comes out at his marginal rate, and whatever's left goes into a savings account, earning a decent but fully taxable interest rate. Simple, safe, and exactly what a bank teller would recommend, because it's exactly what a bank offers. Jess does something different. Instead of taking that $15,000 as take-home pay, she arranges with her employer to salary sacrifice it straight into her super before income tax touches it. Same money, same discipline, completely different tax treatment. Neither of them is doing anything clever or risky. They're not picking stocks. They're not timing a market. They're not gambling on crypto. They are both just quietly putting the same amount away on the same schedule for the same goal. The only decision that separates them is which account that money lands in first. Here's where the maths gets interesting. Jess's $15,000 a year goes into her super and is only taxed at 15% going in, instead of the 37% it would have lost as ordinary income. That's 22 cents saved on every dollar before it's even invested. When Jess is ready to buy, she doesn't just get her contributions back. The ATO lets her withdraw 85% of those concessional contributions, plus a deemed rate of return it sets itself, currently around 7.38%, which beats almost every savings account on the market. And when that money comes out, it's taxed at her marginal rate minus a 30% offset, which for most first home buyers brings the tax bill close to zero. Added up over the full $50,000 lifetime cap, or $100,000 if you and a partner both use it, and someone on a 30 to 32% tax bracket comes out over $7,600 ahead of the exact same money sitting in a bank account. Same discipline, same amount saved, thousands of dollars different purely because of which account it sat in. Let's put rough numbers on Jess and Dave's 3 years, just so this isn't abstract. Dave's $45,000 sitting in a savings account and taxed on the interest every year at his marginal rate might grow to something like $51,000 or $52,000 by the time he's ready to buy. Jess's $45,000 run through super at 15% contributions tax and topped up by the ATO's deemed rate instead of a bank's variable rate comes out closer to $59,000 or $60,000 once she's paid the reduced withdrawal tax and pulled it out. Same starting point, same 3 years, but a gap of roughly $7,000 to $10,000 sitting on the table. Enough to cover stamp duty concessions, moving costs, or just a bigger buffer for the first few months of a mortgage. Again, treat these as illustrative. Your exact numbers depend on your income, your fund, and the rates in force the year you use it. Now, here's the part that scares people off, and it's exactly why we're walking through it, like you're standing at the bank counter with someone explaining it line by line. Trap 1, the notice of intent. If you're doing this the way Jess did, through employer salary sacrifice, you skip this entirely because that money was never yours to claim a deduction on in the first place. But if you're topping up with your own after-tax money out of a bank account you already control and you want to claim it as a tax deduction, you must lodge a notice of intent to claim a deduction with your super fund and wait for them to acknowledge it in writing before you ask the ATO for anything. Get the order wrong. Apply to the ATO first, or don't wait for the acknowledgement, and you lose the deduction entirely. Full stop. No appeal, no do-over. Trap 2, determination before release. These are 2 separate ATO steps, not one. First, the ATO issues a determination, telling you exactly how much you're allowed to withdraw. Only after that do you request the release, the actual cash landing in your account. The golden rule: you must have your determination sorted before property settlement, meaning before legal ownership changes hands on the home you're buying. Leave it too late and settle first, and you can lose access to the scheme on that property entirely, no matter how much you'd contributed. Trap 3, timing the cash. Once you've signed a contract, you have up to 90 days to request the release. But the ATO itself takes roughly 15 to 25 business days to actually process it. Call it 4 to 6 weeks in the real world, not a bank transfer that clears overnight. This is not same-day money, and it is not next week money. If your deposit is due in 2 weeks and you haven't started the paperwork, FHSS cash will not save you. Start the process the moment you have a signed contract, not when the deposit is due. Trap 4, the 20% penalty. Once your FHSS money lands in your bank account, the clock starts. You have 12 months, extendable to 24, to sign a contract to buy a home. Miss that window entirely, and you have 2 options, neither of them good. Put the money back into super as a normal, non-concessional contribution, or keep it and pay a flat 20% penalty tax on top of what you already paid, which wipes out most of the benefit you worked to get in the first place. So here's Jess and Dave, 3 years later, both having saved exactly the same $45,000 with exactly the same discipline. Dave has his balance, minus 3 years of tax on every dollar of interest along the way. Jess has her contributions, taxed at just 15% going in, boosted by the ATO's deemed rate instead of a bank's variable rate, and released with most of the withdrawal tax cancelled out by that 30% offset. The gap between them isn't luck, and it isn't risk. Jess's money never touched the share market, never bounced around, never had a bad year. It's a straightforward legislated tax difference the government built specifically to help first home buyers that almost nobody uses because almost nobody survives reading the fact sheet. So here's what to actually do. First, log into your super and check whether your employer will let you set up salary sacrifice. Most will, it's a simple form. Second, decide early whether you're using salary sacrifice, which skips the notice of intent step, or personal contributions, which don't. Get that form in immediately if it's the second one. Third, the moment you're seriously house hunting, not after you've found the place, apply for your FHSS determination because it needs to be sorted before settlement, not during it. Fourth, once you've signed a contract, request your release straight away and build 4 to 6 weeks of waiting into your plans, not 4 to 6 days. None of this requires a finance degree, and none of it requires taking on any risk you're not already comfortable with. It requires filling in the right form, in the right order, at the right time, and that's it. You're not behind and you haven't missed out. This money has been sitting there waiting for you the whole time. Make sure you subscribe and let's get sorted.